Stop trying so hard to meditate. Welcome to the Deep Dive from the teaching of Luang Pu Promot Promojo, Thailand.
Imagine for a second that you decide, okay, this is it. I am going to get serious about meditation.
Right.
Like you really commit to it. What is the very first thing you do? You probably find a quiet corner, sit down, straighten your back until it hurts just a little bit.
Oh, yeah, the classic posture.
Yeah, exactly. You close your eyes super tight and you basically tell your brain, okay, freeze, stop thinking right now, be holy.
The statue approach, we could call it.
Yeah, the statue approach.
Mhm.
And if you're really going for it, maybe you try walking meditation. But you don't just walk normally. You walk like a zombie in slow motion.
Placing each foot with agonizing precision.
Agonizing. Staring at the ground like you're looking for a lost contact lens. I mean, it looks serious. It feels serious.
It creates a really great image of the serious practitioner.
Yeah.
You look the part.
Right. But here is the kicker, and honestly the hook for our entire deep dive today. If you were doing all that stiff, serious, heavy focusing, you aren't actually cultivating mindfulness.
Oh.
Yeah. You might actually be trapping yourself in a delusion.
It's a massive claim, isn't it? Because we associate effort with results.
Right. No pain, no gain.
Exactly. We think if it hurts, it must be working. They suggest something completely different. They suggest that this heavy forced effort creates a fake state.
A fake state.
Yeah, it's a mask, and it actually prevents you from seeing the truth of your own mind.
So today we're doing a deep dive into the concept of rusik tua, which translates roughly to feeling oneself or self-awareness. We're going to unpack why trying too hard is a trap, why drifting away is also a trap, and how to find this elusive middle way that leads to what the master calls automatic mindfulness.
And I really want to be clear about the nature of these sources right out of the gate. This isn't just abstract philosophy.
No, not at all.
These transcripts read like diagnostic manuals. Luang Pu Promote is essentially looking at modern people, people like you and me who have jobs and smartphones and incredibly busy brains, and pointing out exactly where the mechanics fail when we try to look inward.
Okay, let's start with the big picture then. The sources describe the human mind using this really, really compelling analogy of a pendulum.
It is the most useful visual in the entire stack of materials.
Yeah.
If you want to understand why meditation is so hard for you, you have to look at this pendulum. The mind naturally swings between two extremes.
Okay.
On one side, you have what the texts call mohas, or delusion.
Which, let's be honest, is my default mode.
It's everyone's default mode. This is the left side of the pendulum. This is getting lost.
It's like checking out.
Exactly.
Right.
You're daydreaming, you're scrolling through social media, you're replaying an argument from 3 years ago while you're in the shower. You are completely absorbed in the story of your thoughts or the sensory world outside.
You essentially forget that you were even there.
Right. You are totally checked out of your own existence.
So that's one side. We drift, but then we realize, hey, wait, I should be mindful. I'm supposed to be meditating.
Yeah.
So we yank the pendulum to the other side.
Exactly. We swing it hard to the right.
Which is a mouthful.
It is. But it literally translates to self-torment or forcing. This is where we try to control the mind.
The statue mode.
The statue mode. We hold our breath, we stiffen our bodies, we stare intensely at an object. We try to force the mind to be completely quiet.
And the mission of this deep dive is to figure out how to stop the pendulum from swinging to either extreme.
Yep.
Because the way the source explains it, if we aren't lost, we're forcing.
Yep.
And if we stop forcing, we immediately get lost again. We just go back and forth.
Precisely. That is the core conflict here. The middle way isn't about finding some perfect mathematical balance between the two. It's about finding a completely different state of mind, a state of natural awareness that is neither lazy nor stressed.
So let's talk about that stress side first, because this was really relatable in the source material. The master talks about the practitioner persona.
Yes, the persona. He observes that the moment someone thinks, I am going to meditate, they physically and mentally change.
They put on the mask.
They do. They stop being a normal human being and they start performing meditation.
There is this great description in the source where he talks about people walking. He says, normal walking is completely fine. You just walk to the kitchen to get a glass of water, no problem.
Right, very natural.
But as soon as they practice walking meditation, they completely transform. They start lifting their legs awkwardly, moving in this bizarre slow motion, looking like cranes. I think the word zombie was used too.
And they genuinely think that unnatural slowness is mindfulness. But Longpour points out that this is actually just delusion concentration.
Delusion concentration. That sounds like an oxymoron.
It does, but it makes sense when you unpack it. You are so focused on the mechanics of the movement or holding your body stiff that you enter a kind of trance.
He compares it to a sedative, right?
He does. He says it acts like a drug. The mind becomes dull, heavy, and quiet. And the trap is that it feels nice.
Because you aren't worrying about your taxes.
Exactly. You might sit there thinking, wow, I'm so peaceful right now. I'm so spiritual. But there is actually no real awareness there. You've just suppressed everything. You are zoning out, not tuning in.
He calls this staring or fixing. It's like you lock your focus onto something, maybe your breath, and you just squeeze the life out of it.
And the incredible danger here is that you can get stuck in this state for a very long time. The source actually mentions a monk who practiced for over 30 years, but was just freezing his mind the whole time.
Wait, 30 years?
30 years. He thought he was doing advanced practice, but he was just holding a static, frozen state.
That is terrifying. 30 years of just pausing your brain and thinking it's enlightenment.
Essentially, yes. Because when you are forcing that stillness, you aren't learning anything about reality. You aren't seeing how the mind actually works. You're just putting it in a cage.
Okay, so if we aren't supposed to freeze up and act, and we obviously aren't supposed to let our minds wander off to what we're having for dinner, what are we supposed to do? What is the actual technique being proposed here?
The technique is remarkably simple, which is exactly why it's so hard for us to grasp. It's simply called just know.
Just know.
Just know. The phrase in Thai is rusuk tua, feeling oneself. The master asks a very pointed question in one of the talks. He says, does your body need to be stiff to know it's sitting?
Well, no, I know I'm sitting right now. I'm comfortable in this chair. I'm moving my hands a bit while I talk, but I know I'm here. I don't have to grit my teeth to know that.
Exactly. That ordinary knowledge, that ordinary everyday mind, that is the gateway. You don't need a trance.
Yeah.
You just need to realize that the body is sitting.
Okay, but my mind is slippery. It loves to wander.
Everyone's does. And that's why, to keep the mind from completely drifting off, you need what the source calls a home base.
A home base. Let's unpack that.
Yeah.
That sounds a lot like an anchor.
Yes, but with a really crucial twist. A home base is just a temporary object for the mind to rest on. It could be repeating a mantra like Buddha. It could be watching the breath.
But wait, if I'm doing that, isn't that just focusing again? If I'm watching my breath, aren't I just swinging back to the forcing side of the pendulum?
This is the nuance that changes everything. The goal isn't to chain the mind to the home base. You aren't trying to glue your attention to the breath so tight that it can't move.
Okay.
The goal of the home base is to use it as a reference point to see when the mind leaves.
Oh, I like that. It's like a buoy in the ocean.
Yeah.
You aren't hugging the buoy. You're just watching it, so you know if the current is drifting you away.
Exactly. Think of it like a game of catch the thief. The source uses this specific analogy. If your mind runs away to think about an email you have to send for work, that thought is the thief stealing your attention.
So usually when I catch the thief, when I catch myself thinking during meditation, I get annoyed. I think, bad meditator, get back to work. I basically chase the thief down and tackle him.
Right, that is the standard reaction. We want to punish the mind. But Longcore says no, do not chase the thief. And definitely do not scream at him. Just see him.
Just see him.
Just know, oh, the mind has moved to thinking. That's it.
And if I start scaring at my breath too hard, like if I accidentally go into zombie mode,
Then you notice that too. You say, oh, the mind has moved to focusing. You just know that it moves.
this is where it gets really counterintuitive for me.
Mm.
The source explicitly says, do not try to stop the running. Do not drag the mind back.
That is the absolute hardest part for people to trust because we fundamentally want to control our experience. But the master says the moment you realize, I was thinking, the thinking stops automatically.
Really? Just by noticing.
Yes, the mindfulness, the knowing itself snaps you back to the present instantly. You don't have to do anything else. The seeing is the doing.
It's like turning on a light in a dark room.
Yeah.
You don't have to sweep the darkness out with a broom. You just flip the switch and the darkness is gone.
That's a perfect way to look at it. There was a great story in the source about a university fencing club that illustrates this concept of the basic stance.
Oh, yes, I loved this anecdote. Longcore talks about his time at a fencing club when he was younger.
Right. While everyone else in the club was practicing these flashy moves, complicated lunges, cinematic parries, he just practiced the basic stance over and over again.
And he won his matches, right?
But he did, because every time his opponent tried a fancy, complex move, they opened up a vulnerability, they lost their balance slightly. He just stayed in his basic stance and struck when he saw the opening.
So how does that apply to the mind?
The analogy here is that the basic stance of the mind is simply knowing when it has strayed. Is it lost? Know it. Is it stuck? Know it. If you master this basic move, you master the whole practice. You don't need fancy trance states.
So it's not about having a mind that never ever moves. It's about having a mind that notices every single time it does move.
Exactly. And this leads us to how we actually get good at this.
Yeah.
Because right now, for anyone listening, this might sound completely exhausting. Like, I have to watch my mind every second of the day.
Yeah, that sounds like a full-time job.
But the source introduces this concept of automatic mindfulness. It's not about holding a state forever. It's about frequency.
Frequency over duration.
Right. We tend to think mindfulness is one long, continuous block of holding on, like trying to hold your breath underwater for an hour. But actually, true mindfulness is a series of short moments. He calls them moments of waking up.
He uses the highway marker analogy, which I thought made this so clear.
It really does. He says at first, your mindfulness is like kilometer markers on a long highway.
You're driving along, totally zoned out.
Exactly. You wake up, you realize you were daydreaming about your weekend, and then you drift off again for another kilometer, maybe 5 or 10 minutes, before you realize it again at the next marker.
So the moments of awareness are really rare at first. They are sparse.
Very rare. But as you keep practicing, just noticing, not forcing, just catching the thief gently, the markers get closer together. Soon, they aren't kilometer markers. They are like the posts in a picket fence.
Zips, zips.
Exactly. You drift, You drift, It happens rapidly. Eventually, it becomes a continuous line of awareness, but it's made up of these tiny, rapid moments.
And this happens through memory, right? This part of the text was fascinating, the actual mechanics of it. We aren't willing ourselves to be mindful. We are training a reflex.
Yes, this is where it gets almost scientific. You cannot force mindfulness to happen. You train it. You teach the mind to recognize the state of forgetting.
Okay, break that down for me.
Once the mind recognizes, oh, this feeling right here, this is what it's like to be lost in thought, that moment of recognition is recorded as data. Eventually, the mind remembers this state so well that the very moment it starts to drift, the memory triggers mindfulness automatically. Lost, aware, lost, aware.
So it becomes a literal reflex, like pulling your hand off a hot stove. You don't have to consciously think, I should pull my hand away now. Your body just does it because it knows the heat is bad.
Exactly. It becomes completely automatic.
There is a beautiful metaphor in the Source involving a chick and an egg that I think explains why we absolutely cannot force this process. It really highlights the patience involved.
Yes, this comes from the teachings of a grandmaster. He compares the knower, that observant, wise part of the mind we're trying to cultivate, to a chick growing inside an egg.
Okay.
You cannot force the chick to hatch. If you get impatient and try to pry the shell open before it's ready, what happens?
The chick dies.
The chick dies. You can't force wisdom to appear. Your only job is just to incubate the egg.
So keeping it warm.
Right. You provide the right conditions, which is this gentle practice of just knowing, giving it that warmth and attention. And when the time is right, when the energy is sufficient, the chick breaks the shell from the inside all on its own.
That is really beautiful. So we are basically just the incubators. We just keep watching, keep knowing, and the wisdom arrives on its own schedule.
Correct. And when that wisdom finally arrives, when the chick hatches, it brings a profound shift in how we actually see reality. Which brings us to the ultimate result of the practice, separating the aggregates or the khandas.
Okay, I'll admit this sounded a bit technical at first when I was reading, separating the aggregates, but the examples in the Source made it really tangible. It's basically about no longer feeling like a single solid me.
Yes. Normally we feel like a monolith. I am sitting here, I am in pain, I am angry. It's all just one big lump of identity. But when mindfulness becomes stable, when that picket fence is tight, you start to see parts instead of a whole.
The Source describes seeing the body as a robot or a doll.
Right. It's a very common experience for practitioners as they progress. You watch the body moving and it starts to feel like a machine or an object. You see the body sitting there breathing, but you, the observer, are just watching it. The mind is the watcher. The body is the thing being watched. They aren't the same thing anymore.
And this helps massively with physical pain, right?
Yeah.
There was a story about Lung Ku Sim asking a student about leg pain.
This is a classic story. A student was sitting in deep meditation, probably in that cross-legged diamond posture, which becomes excruciatingly painful after a while. Lung Pu Sim walked up and asked him, "Does the leg say it hurts?"
And the answer, obviously, is no. The leg is just meat and bone. It doesn't have a voice to complain with.
Exactly. The leg is just matter. It doesn't complain at all. The mind complains. The pain itself is just a physical signal firing, a sensation, what they call Vedana. So suddenly, instead of "I am in pain," you have three distinct things.
The body, the pain, and the mind.
Yes. The body is just sitting there. The pain is just a signal. And the mind is the thing reacting to it.
And if you can clearly see them as three separate things, there is no me actually being hurt.
That is the liberation the texts talk about. The suffering decreases dramatically because you aren't the target anymore. You are just the open space in which these things are happening.
The Source gave a really extreme example of this, a car accident. Which hopefully none of our listeners ever have to test out, but it certainly proves the point.
Yes. Lumpur Promote mentions that a trained practitioner in a sudden crisis, like a car rolling over, often reports that their mind completely separates from the event. They watch the body tumbling inside the car like it's an external object.
That sounds like an actual superpower.
In a practical way, it is. Instead of screaming, "I am dying," the mind simply observes the body is turning. There is an impact. Glass is breaking. This detachment completely reduces fear and panic, which might actually save your life because you stay calm enough to make good split-second decisions.
But, and I love that the source makes sure to include this, there is a big warning attached to this detachment. Don't be too detached, especially if you happen to be a dentist.
That was a very funny anecdote. Luang Por had a student who was a dentist, and he warned him not to treat his patients as just lumps of element.
Right. If you're drilling a tooth, you can't just look at a screaming patient and say, oh, it's just matter. Pain is just a sensation. Quit whining. You need compassion.
Context matters. It is a very important distinction. Detachment is a tool for your internal suffering. It is never an excuse to ignore or dismiss the suffering of others. Don't be a sociopath, basically.
Be a meditator, not a sociopath. Good advice. So let's bring this all together. We've talked about the trap of forcing, going into zombie mode, and the trap of drifting into daydreaming. We've talked about establishing a home base and using the technique of just knowing, catching the thief. And we've talked about the goal, which is separating the observer from the drama of the body and the mind.
That is the complete roadmap. Stop trying to be special. Stop trying to look like a holy statue. Just wake up to what is happening over and over again naturally.
Now, as you know, we always like to leave you, the listener, with something to do. Not just something to think about, but something practical to actually try. And the source offers a very specific challenge for us to try tomorrow morning. It's about the very first moment of waking up.
This is a remarkably powerful exercise. Luang Por suggests that the most critical moment for practice in your entire day is right when you wake up in the morning.
Before you even grab your phone, before you start the coffee.
Before you even move a muscle. When you first regain consciousness, your mind is usually natural and entirely neutral. It hasn't put on its daily mask yet. It hasn't remembered all its worries and tasks. He says to watch the mind in that specific, fleeting moment.
And what exactly are we looking for in that moment?
We are watching the actual construction of the self. Watch how the mind immediately tries to build a persona. Watch it run to a thought or a worry about work or a plan for the day. Watch it try to solidify into the person who desperately needs coffee or the person who is already late.
So the challenge is to catch that exact transition, to see the machinery of the ego starting its engine for the day.
Exactly. Seeing that transition is a profound insight. It shows you firsthand that you are something that is constructed every single morning. You are not something that is solid and permanent.
It is heavy, but also honestly kind of freeing. If I'm just constructed every morning, maybe I can take myself a little less seriously today.
It is entirely freeing once you see it.
And that leads us to our final provocative thought for you to mull over. The source touched on something really interesting about happiness. We spend our whole lives chasing happiness, right? That is basically the human game.
It is the game most of us play, yes. But the source suggests that even happiness is just a temporary guest. It's just an actor walking onto the stage of the mind, and eventually it will walk off.
So here is the question we want to leave you with today. If happiness is just a visitor, exactly like anger or boredom, are you brave enough to just let it pass?
We usually cling desperately to happiness and push away pain. But the teaching suggests that if we stop trying to be happy and instead just watch happiness come and go without grabbing it, we might find a peace that is completely independent of our circumstances.
It essentially asks, are you brave enough to watch your happiness die, knowing it wasn't yours to begin with?
Because if you can watch it die without panic, you can also watch it be born without grasping, and that is where true freedom lies.
A lot to mull over there. Try the waking up challenge tomorrow morning. Watch the self get built and see if you can catch the thief at least once today. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.
Until next time.
This deep dive is from the teaching by Longpu Promot Pamojo, Swansantitam Monastery, Thailand. Thanks for watching The Let Go Place, Your Gentle Pause from the Chaos. More Dhamma from respectful Thai monks will come. Please like and subscribe our channel. Drop a comment on how you feel or what you like to know more. See you next time.